All right. I don't know if everybody can hear me. I can't even see a screen. So I'm hoping I'm on. All right, let's see what happens here. Attempting to do this is not as easy as I thought. So let's see if we can get this puppy going correctly. All right. I guess this is going to be a test since all I have is the delayed screen I'm looking at. I don't actually have a screen I can see myself talking on. Interesting. Yeah, this is great. I cannot stand Zoom. I'm sorry. I have issues with this program. Let's see if we can actually get it going. Maybe I can just stare straight out and hopefully you guys will see me and hear me. And we can get on with this. Anyway, I just want to give a shout out to everyone who's been praying for my health. I appreciate it as I change all my diets and start taking care of myself. We're going to be talking about emotion today and how emotion really does affect, or shall I say, how food actually affects your emotion, how belief systems affect your emotion. And it's really, really crazy how all of that is actually happening. And so I'm really excited, though, to talk a little bit about emotion today. So feel free to like and share, and hopefully we'll make it through this video with peace and no more complications. You will be able to find this on our YouTube channel after I upload it, Father of Glory, as well as our podcast, Podbean, the Podbean app under Father of Glory Global Ministries. I looked up an article and I shared a little bit earlier, but I'm going to reshare it about emotion and the science of emotion and basically exploring the basics of emotion and emotional psychology. And it says how we interpret and respond to the world around us makes us who we are and contributes to our quality of life. I really believe that the way in which you frame your world is really important to the ongoing expression of emotion and what you feel. I think a lot of times people, they downplay emotion, they stuff emotion, and, we're taught a lot of this in Christian circles where we are constantly taught that if you feel something bad, it's a demon, it's a devil. We're always taught this scapegoat mentality to never look at ourselves or get to know ourselves. And so there's this fear in the church of really knowing yourself. So really there's not a lot out there on the depths of emotion because people don't know themselves enough to take the plunge and enter the adventure of knowing themselves. And so a lot of times this is through trial and error in our own thinking. And so let me continue to just read a little bit here. So the study of emotional psychology allows researchers to dive into what makes humans react as they do to certain stimuli and how those reactions affect us both physically and mentally, and so on and so forth. But emotions are often confused with feelings and moods. So you can actually be in a mood and it not be based in emotional trauma or triggers from your past or these types of things. And so you have emotional experiences have three components. A subjective experience, a psychological response, and a behavioral or expressive response. And I think a lot of times, we have to realize that even although these three operate together, they still are distinct. And so you can have a mood, you can wake up in a mood feeling depressed, not knowing why you're feeling depressed because your life is great or there's nothing circumstantially happening around you. And this could be tapping into, some historical woundedness at a distance. You could be hearing the echo of historical woundedness surfacing, but a lot of the time when it's just a mood, you could be dealing with balances even in the biological side of your life, pushing yourself in a direction where you have a belief that you're trying to force yourself out of. One thing I've realized is a lot of the how-tos and methodologies that we come up with actually stifle emotional health, because we're trying to force ourselves to be something else, and we haven't even got to the root or source of why we feel the way we feel. And so I encourage you, make it all about your whole life, body, soul, and spirit. Don't isolate and think that just because you're spiritually whole, and emotionally messed up, that it's just all about emotions. I always tend to look at spirit as motion. We are in a constant movement. All right. Holy men of God spoke as they were moved by the Holy Spirit. So expression comes from motion and movement. Where are you at in your spiritual journey? Well, from a spiritual place, you're everywhere you've always been, and everywhere you go, you've always been. And so it's a lot different from that place than from our emotional and our cognitive understanding. So when you think about it cognitively, where are you at? Does your cognitive mind believe what your spirit believes? Have you connected the two? And so this is something that we cannot force to happen. We can meditate, we can pray, we can do positively distract ourselves from certain situations. We can not feed certain belief systems, but ultimately it needs to flow. Every part of your mind needs to be in agreement with your life, with what the Father is doing. And so there's many aspects of this, but let me read just a little bit more here. All right. So feelings arise from an emotional experience because a person is conscious of the experience. Now that brings it up as well. What are you conscious of? Are you conscious? And I said this before, but I'll say it again. It's usually not the situation we're in that causes emotional issues, but all the secondary streams of thought that we kind of bring in cognitively to try to talk ourselves out of what we think we're believing or not believing. There's also the fact that when I don't understand what I believe, where does my mind go? Does my mind begin to figure everything out? Does it begin to feel afraid or out of control, and these types of things? So we can tap into this, and we can simply allow ourselves to unfold. There is an unfolding of who you are on the inside of you that does unfold into your emotional state. Okay. All right. And so a feeling is a result of an emotion and may be influenced by memories, beliefs, and other factors. While moods differ from emotion, moods differ from emotion because they lack the stimuli and have no clear starting point. You ever started out with, I don't know why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. Everything's great in my life. And so what do? We try to force ourselves to feel something else. We call that faith. Okay, that ain't faith. That's mental assent. That's survival. That's fight or flight. It's just fight or flight wrapped up in a spiritual facade. And so you don't have to force yourself, but you also don't want to passively sit in it as though you can't ever get free from it. You definitely want to simply be aware of what you're feeling, and also be aware that it could be at a physiological level. Are you eating right? Are you feeding yourself with a bunch of FDA approved foods that is simply filled with drugs and chemicals? Are you eating vegetables and fruits that man has tampered with when he put his nasty hands on it, twisted it, chemicalized it, sprayed it with all kinds of pesticides, and now made all that beautiful fruit and vegetables that's good for you no longer good for you. You know, one thing I would love to do is boycott a lot of these companies that are feeding us the garbage, you know, in stores. But you know, what do we do? What do we do with that? Well, definitely, what I am finding out with everything I've been going through with this Hashimoto's things I was diagnosed with, you know, and I'm going to use this as an example. First and foremost, I went to the doctors are a last resort to me. It's just my thing. I'm nothing against doctors, but practicing medicine, I don't like to be practiced on. I don't like to be guinea pigs. And we know that there are a lot of problems with diagnoses, and it's always good to get second and third opinions. And so I was having a lot of issues with, I couldn't urinate. I thought I had kidney stones because I've had those before. So I was feeling really sluggish, putting on weight. And I went to the doctor and they did a bunch of tests, and come to find out, they said, well, you have a thyroid issue. And I said, okay, I've already been told that before. Took medication for years, felt like the Lord healed me, was good for 12 years. And now it all came back. Can't really explain all of that, since my mind believed I was whole. My mind was manifesting wholeness, you know, and so there was a lot of factors involved with that. Now I am going to admit I was not eating good. You know, I was doing the whole believing, eat whatever you want. All things are pure to those that are clean. Oh, it's not about the food. It's all in your mind, you know. And I believe there's a truth there to a degree, but I also think it's straight up ignorance to make that blanket statement and proclamation. And it's really lazy to actually discipline your life because you love yourself. And so I'm realizing now some areas of my life, I'm repenting in areas of my life where I didn't love myself at a physiological level, at a physical level. I just put it all on the glory shall sustain me, or I'm a quantum being and everything else is an illusion. And, you know, there's a place for that, but it's not the whole thing. Okay. And so, you know, I walked through this process of, even when I got diagnosed, I took the pill I was told to take for thyroid to replace low hormone levels. And I immediately started to feel better. So I just kept going, you know, eating the pizza and the burgers and all of that, and kept going, and was working on the RV and getting everything done and traveling and ministering. And I started to immediately drop weight because of the pill. But yet my emotions were in and out. I'd be hitting these mood swings. And so I ended up in bed, could hardly get out of bed, only to do videos. Didn't feel led to voice it yet because I was just kind of walking through it, waiting to see what was going to happen. I know for me personally, I don't like to whine a lot publicly. And I also don't want to draw a bunch of people wanting to cast demons out, break curses, and tell me it's all in your mind, because I knew it wasn't in my mind, because I didn't even receive the diagnosis. Continued to walk as though I was whole from the place I understood, and yet my body was falling apart. It totally affected my emotions to the degree where I couldn't remember. I had short-term memory loss. My childhood disappeared, and I would only get little photograph pictures and couldn't even place them where they were at in my life. These were kind of some of the things I was going through. I, you know, thank God for my wonderful wife. She said, we're changing your diet. She started looking up stuff, and I actually started taking the diagnosis seriously. Does that mean I didn't have faith to believe for miracles? No, it means I wasn't stupid anymore. And my faith was no longer displaced in only one area of my belief, but now began to translate into body, soul, and spirit. And so I think we have to understand that, you know, you are stewarding your life in heavenly places from an eternal unity in the Father's intentions. You're stewarding your life from a quantum dimension of entanglement that is, converging in this dimension at multiple levels. Also biologically, even in the quantum realm, you are stewarding your emotional level, your mental level, your spiritual level, all of that, physical level. And so even though it is all one, as spirit slowed down at different speeds, we have to be wise. See, back some years ago, there was a grace message that was released that is very similar to today's, and there was a lot of flack on it. And they called it greasy grace or hyper grace. And it was extreme. People were out there just basically partying and sinning more because, oh, well, we're under grace. And I don't believe in greasy grace. I don't believe in the hyper grace as it was happening or defined back in those days. And the reason why is because there was no wisdom. Wisdom and grace always move together. It was wisdom who built her house. And that house is all aspects of your human experience as well, And so, as I began to journey, I started to find myself doing better over this last, really, it was a couple of weeks ago, I started to come out. I couldn't really move around that much, but my mind started to become clear. My taste buds changed. I was starting to eat correctly, all of these things. And then I did a dumb thing. I stopped drinking the bottled water I was drinking, and I decided to drink the tap water with the taste of fluoride. Of course, I didn't connect it, but it threw me right back into bed. Can you imagine fluoride throwing me into bed? Well, I don't think I would have all of these food allergies today if I hadn't eaten FDA approved drug filled foods, poison filled foods, which are being sold legally in our grocery stores, which I don't understand. I mean, I don't mean to be facetious about it, but at the same time, why not just put rat poison is edible, and so not thinking about it, not reading all the labels, and not just eating these things every now and again, but making FDA approved food my diet, is what is happening to me now. Okay. That's what caused me to go into this. And so a lot of our sickness, a lot of flu symptoms, cold systems are due to what we eat. Now, what are we eating in the natural? Well, we're eating what we believe emotionally. Okay. That's why we see emotional eaters, and those that have eating disorders, it's usually tied to belief systems and emotion. Well, we can be eating things that we think are good. I never believed I had an eating disorder. I never believed at all. In fact, there were times I would chow down and there were times I would hardly eat. But to me, food was not an addiction until I tried to stop eating those foods. And then I was like a meth head, getting up in the middle of the night, digging through cabinets just to find an Oreo cookie. Okay. If you ask my wife, she's like, oh my gosh, and so I couldn't even go into the kitchen. I had to stay in the other room and let my wife bring me food until I'd gone through the withdrawals of caffeine and sugar and all of that stuff. But it was I was an emotional wreck. And so, take this into consideration, when you're dealing with one side of emotions. That's just one side. I wanted to throw that out there for you. But thankfully, allowing everybody into my life, in my place where I'm going through this weakness right now and going through this struggle. And I've been told it's a lifelong thing. It's not like an overnight thing I'm going to deal with. But do I believe that I can fully recover? Yes, I totally believe. Based on spiritual reality, based on shifting my belief system, based on eating healthy and stewarding at all levels. And so allow yourself to enjoy every aspect of your journey in Christ, even in the physical, visible realm. Okay. let's see here. Let me read you something else here. So, subjective experiences. All emotions begin with a subjective experience, also referred to as stimulus. But what does that mean? While basic emotions are expressed by all individuals, regardless of culture or upbringing, the experience that produces them can be highly subjective. Subjective experiences can range from something as simple as seeing a color to something as major as losing a loved one or getting married. No matter how intense the experience is, it can provoke many emotions in a single individual, and the emotions each individual feels may be different. For example, one may feel anger and regret at the loss of a loved one, while another may experience intense sadness. Now, what this is telling me is that there is no one size fits all. You're not going to find a one size fits all. You're going to find the theme of who you are in your journey. And I believe a lot of times we're going to start with the historical woundedness, because I do believe that the way in which we treat our bodies in the natural and the way in which we believe, or our belief system is based, in the lens in which we view our life, is going to begin with historical woundedness, the way in which I've interpreted my own experience, or what I have taken personally in my experience. So you have within the emotion, you have the sensory realm, you have the some call it the sensory, some call it the sensual. It's the five senses, taste, touch, hear, so on and so forth, right? And so we have these senses, and we get so caught up in them being the ultimate reality, that we then are concluding upon everything around us as a personal experience. Okay. There are some things that we don't need to take personal. We don't need to take personal what other people think. We don't need to take personal what we cannot control circumstantially. And sometimes we don't even need to take personal what we can't understand yet of what we feel. And we simply need to actually let it come out, let it express itself. And when I mean that, I mean viewing it, because there are behavioral sides that we can take a negative emotion that we're experiencing, or a bad mood that we're in, and we can express it on our face. I was reading on this study that when you line up the right facial expression to what you really feel emotionally, you actually begin to cognitively understand aspects of your emotion that you wouldn't understand otherwise. In other words, if I'm hiding under a facade because I don't want people to know what I'm feeling, I'm also hiding what I feel from myself. So your countenance is connected with identifying what you're feeling, okay? And so being real and getting rid of the poker face, some people might not like it wearing your heart on your sleeve, but you know what? It's going to help you in the long run, because if you can discern your facial expression, you will be able to discern certain aspects of your emotion you couldn't otherwise. And you can now take what you feel is negative emotion, and you can now be honest with yourself. When you're honest with yourself, you can even take what seems to be something that is bad in your own mind and still have a positive behavioral response. Because ultimately we start to affect our environment and our family and friends around us when we cannot appropriate the right behavior out of what we feel. And so, being in touch with yourself is really important, not manipulating ourselves by ignoring what we feel. I find that, when I am honest with myself, I'm not going to rush past what I'm feeling. I'm not going to keep it to myself as well. I also find that emotion and the stream of emotion, being spiritual motion on another level, is very, very much connected to other expressions around us in relationship. And so if I keep my emotion to myself, but yet I'm at a subatomic level, I'm an atom that is in a field overlapping through my frequency everybody else, then I'm actually operating opposite of the makeup of who I am. And so we can't contradict ourselves to ourselves and expect to be healthy on all levels. Okay. Our emotional health is both biological, it's both spiritual, it's both cognitive, it's experiential, it's relational. Okay. And so if I'm crossing over you in reality, in the quantum field, and we are vibrating together at the speed of light and interacting in perfect harmony, then I should not keep to myself the expression of what I feel that I might not be able to comprehend right now for fear of losing a relationship. I do understand how breakable relationships are right now in this generation and many previous generations. But I do believe that is not a permanent thing, that we are going to come into unbreakable relationships and actually be able to speak the truth in love. Right now, in the time in which we live, we're kind of like where Jesus was in the first century when he says, I got many things to tell you, but you really can't bear them now. In other words, people are so offended at themselves that how can they hear what you're going through? Because they're going to take it personally, because they're still wounded, they're still hurt. I mean, how many times do we have to beat around the bush with people and sugarcoat things, because we know if we just told them as it is, they're going to be offended at what we say. I do believe we're coming to a time where we will have dealt with our own facades and actually are carrying our true expression, even if it isn't up to par with other people's opinions and what they might think. But simply being real to yourself and real to others will make a big difference, because you're not violating or betraying yourself in pretending to be something you're not. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. Not everybody can receive the full raw version of us. So there are filters that we do use based on being all things to all people. But that is when we are comfortable being our true self with the few that are close to us, that fully receive us as we are. So total acceptance is really important. I do understand that my emotional pain that I'm presently feeling, that is directly connected to evaluating my history or belief systems that have been built through historical evaluation or conclusion in trauma or misunderstanding, is going to mirror in our present situation outwardly around us to kind of begin to poke at those belief systems so that we can, get a whole different view of what we believed about ourselves. But there are other emotional streams that are directly connected to how honest I am with myself right now, how I express that to one another, my vulnerability with others, and even what I'm eating and how I'm taking care of my physical, visible life as well. And so this is something that I believe is important. Let's look for a minute here at psychological responses. We all know how it feels to have our heart beat fast with fear. This psychological response is the result of the autonomic nervous system's reaction to the emotion we're experiencing. So your nervous system controls involuntary bodily responses and regulates our fight or flight response. According to many psychologists, our psychological responses are likely how emotion helped us evolve and survive as humans throughout history. So there are healthy aspects of flight or fight. When you all of a sudden sense you're in a dangerous situation and your emotions begin to pick up on that through the psychological discernment of your environment and maybe wrong intentions of others. Since we are all crossing each other's fields, that is possible, and that is healthy. But when I am hiding what I feel from somebody else for fear of them rejecting me, is the very reason why I'm hiding from them, is because I'm still living a life of rejection and still protecting that emotion from actually surfacing and being made whole. Okay. All right. Behavioral responses, when you're dealing with behavioral response of the emotional response, is actually the expression of the emotion. Behavioral responses can include a smile, a grimace, a laugh, a sigh, along with many other reactions, depending on how your personality operates and the social norms around you, what you're kind of submitting to based on the cultural norm. Okay, and this is where I believe we definitely need to be real with our expression, at least around those that we feel safe with. While plentiful research suggests that many facial expressions are universal, such as a frown to indicate sadness, the sociocultural norms and individual upbringings play a role in our behavioral responses. For example, how love is expressed is different both from person to person and across cultures. You know, behavioral responses are important to signal to others how we're feeling, but research shows that they're also vital to individuals' well-being. Okay, this is what I was just telling you. You know, a study in the Journal of Abnormal Psychology found that while watching negative and positive emotional films, suppression of behavioral responses to emotion had physical effects on the participants. The effects included elevated heart rates. This suggests that expressing behavioral responses to stimuli, both positive and negative, is better for your overall health than holding those responses inside. Thus, there are benefits of smiling, laughing, and expressing negative emotions in a healthy way. So in other words, don't try to stuff your negative emotions thinking they're useless. You can find purpose in them in the way in which you express them. Okay, this is where we flip it over. This is where we find treasures in darkness, okay? And so we really need to understand that and this is how I've said it, there's really no such thing in the heart of the matter as a positive or negative emotion in and of itself, okay? It is the conclusion of that emotion based on our beliefs, our conclusions, our perceptions, and based on those beliefs, conclusions, and perceptions is actually how we are motivated to treat every aspect of our life and interact and express. So again, start with the historical woundedness, how you view yourself. Are you worthy of love? Yes, you are. Are you around a bunch of people that constantly are invalidating you where you have invalidated yourself? Get away from those people. They're toxic, okay? You know, you're not going to be able to be around those people. Good company does corrupt, or bad company does corrupt good morals. And I'm not talking the rock band, Bad Company, okay? And so we do need to do certain things at certain times, changing our environment. Are you constantly under stress at a job that you hate? Maybe it's time to change jobs. But I have this dream I want to fulfill, but it doesn't make any money. That's okay. Find a lower paying job or a job that you've got a little bit more freedom to let your dream be your hobby for a while until your dream is fulfilled, whether it makes money or not. Okay, we should be living our dreams. We should not be repressing what we're actually wired to move in. Okay. For a long time, I would conform to the rat race of what I'm supposed to do. Oh, I'm supposed to work 40 hours a week and 8 hours a day. Well, who decided that? Well, the culture around you. They decided that you're supposed to take a third of your life working and not living. Okay. There are ways in which we can reduce some of the things, and I want to say this because it's important. When you are constantly working all the time to keep up with the Joneses and keep up with the bills, and your life is based in the culture around you, you're gonna buy all kinds of toys. You're gonna have all kinds of extra benefits in your life that are there to kind of soothe you. It's almost like comfort food financially. Okay. And so you have to work more to make more because all your money is going for comfort items to make you feel better in the miserable life you're living. So what do? You cut out half of those things. You get a lower paying job and you cut out all the overhead that is only actually there because you're not being the true version of you. Okay. Excuse me. My wife and we did this. We decided we wanted to be on the road, and so we live as minimalists, but we still have nice things. We just don't have a bunch of clutter. We don't have a bunch of extras. We don't need the extras. Why? Because we're living our dream. And so all the extra stuff is gone, and now you have all that extra money, and therefore you don't need to make extra money. And so I think a lot of times we have comfort food, we have comfort toys, we have comfort belief systems, and we even have comfortable friends that keep us believing the lie of who we are. And so, we need to definitely allow our stewardship to hit all levels and not be putting on the one glove fits all aspect, because it doesn't. I have met several people. This has been something I've been thinking about for a while, even before I was hit physically with what I'm going through, which 90% of it is based in my own choices. Okay. And I have to take account for that. Do I despise myself? Am I angry with myself? No. Why? Because I've dealt with my emotional history. I've dealt with how I believe about myself. So I can't be angry at myself. I can simply be truly accountable in loving myself and have the motivation to get up and do something about it and say, okay, my bad. I didn't see that one coming. Okay, I can see where I was lazy, where I was being dumb. All right, God, you got me there. Now let's get up and let's do something about it, and let this be an asset to other people. Let me take everything in my life that I thought was devastation and let me turn it over to revelation and let it bring reconciliation in people's lives, because that's what you're here for. That's what you're here to do. Okay, you're not here to screw up and hope it benefits somebody else. You're here to take everything you thought was a screw up, which is really a benefit to somebody else. When you're truly operating in your true self, you can put on the filters needed to those who can't receive your raw self. And you can do it with joy, not feeling like you're betraying who you are. And just find the few. You don't need 50 people to love you. You only need one or two to mirror that companionship and help you find yourself in each other's eyes. Okay. And let people motivate you. If you're struggling with bad eating habits, make friends with people that are health freaks. Get to know them. Okay. If you're struggling with loving yourself through the Father's eyes and that part of your emotion, get around people that are positive and that have overcome that entanglement with twisted perception. You're going to have more than one kind of person in your life. You're going to have a banqueting table in which you are constantly partaking of all these different meals that are the people before you. If you're called, if you're struggling with finances, get around people that are frugal, that are good stewards, that that are successful. You see what I'm saying? So you're going to, have to reach out and actually be aware of this. And I think a lot of times we hear this and we think, I've got to perform. And that's not what I'm saying. This is not performance based. This is from a place of wisdom and grace, to where you're not moving in the greasy hyper grace of 20 years ago, where people just keep living in their same struggles and sins and call it grace because they're forgiven. But you're moving with grace, with wisdom, which means your life is actually reflecting the character and the nature of God in a place of peace. And you're able to live the adventure. We're still living the adventure. We're still traveling. We're still, well, right now we're sitting for about another month as my health comes back up. We're taking care of different things in our life. But we're coming on here. We're loving people. We're reaching out. I'm on the phone several hours a day with people, or on video chats and Zoom calls and these types of things. Building relationship. Allowing the Father to reveal to me different parts of my identity that I haven't seen yet. This is a never-ending journey, and it's not about not being complete. You are complete. The never-ending journey is because God is never-ending, and neither are you. And so thank God that we're not going to be bored rolling our crowns in heaven saying, holy, holy, holy all day. And that's all we do, because that used to trip me out when I'd read that in the scripture saying, what? Day and night, that's all they do? It's an allegory, people. People are not literally doing that day and night. Okay, that would be boring. God is secure. He doesn't need us to bow down and roll our crowns. Okay, and so, as we really begin to come into understanding emotion, and I want to give you another aspect of emotion real quick here, a little side note here. I might do more teaching on this later, and I just want to throw some things out there. I know I'm a little all over the place today, and it's partly because I can't really see myself talking on here on this Zoom, Facebook Zoom. I see me lagging. I see me in the past trying to catch up with me in the present. So I'm struggling a little bit with staying on topic. But I want to talk just for a minute about the frequency of your emotions that vibrate out of you. Because your thoughts are not in your head. I mean, this is proven. They've done plenty of scientific facts or studies on this, that they would stick the little suction cup wires to your head to read your thoughts internally and get a certain amount of understanding from brain signals and how the brain works. But they also have this new experiment where it's a bubble that goes around your head and it's not even touching your head, and how they're able to read the signals coming out of you. And so your mind does not have privacy rights, because your thoughts are actually being released as a signal, almost like a radio signal or a tower, all over the place. And so we are vibrating emotionally outward into this visible physical realm, and our emotions are vibrating inward into or shall I say, the spirit of that is the spirit that is moving in motion is causing a vibration that is animating out as emotion, and that emotion is also vibrating out into the physical visible dimension. Now, a lot of times it is being seen in the mind's eye, and also being articulated through the belief system of what we feel. And so if your emotion is love and life and wow, excitement, but your mind, because it's been taught, hey, you've been taught, don't get too excited now, that's just your own zeal, then you can actually quench that emotion. You can actually quench an emotion that's rejoicing in who you are based on a cognitive definition through your culture, environment, or through what you've been taught, that you really shouldn't get too excited and you need to calm down. I think we talk ourselves out of a lot of happiness on multiple levels. And so the mind is constantly communicating to itself intellectually, experientially, emotionally, spiritually. And of course, our spirit is communicating the truth to all those other aspects of the mind. But out of that comes a lot of what we would normally deem as spiritual warfare. So this actually applies to the spiritual warfare perception that we have adopted, that we've kind of read into the scriptures on a surface level, but really had nothing to do with what the early church was talking about. And so the demonic and the angelic are actually, and I heard this from a dear brother, which I'm hoping to bring him on because he's a really awesome brother. He's got, he really knows the Greek and the Hebrew as well. But out of the emotions is what stems a lot of the angelic and the demonic encounters that we have. Again, this does not take away from the reality of angels and heavenly things, but it is vibrating in parable form coming through the sensory realm. And so the five senses can easily be an up and down lifestyle if we rely only on the five senses, not on spiritual reality, on true identity and cognitive backup, even intellectually, of those truths to talk our emotions into alignment as well. But we do emanate out of us false versions of ourselves in where our emotions are trying to break through and our mind is trying to help our emotions break through to where they are vibrating out and manifesting in parable form. The kingdom is likened unto a seed. The kingdom is likened unto a tree. The kingdom is likened unto a field. And so in this dimension, we are in also from a quantum realm perspective, we are operating at a parable level here in the physical dimension. And so everywhere around you are parables of the kingdom, and there are parables of who you are and parables of who you're not. And the mind will project based on what it's been taught in its belief system to give you imagery that you can relate to because you've been taught that, or you believed you've had an experience based in what you've been taught. So if you've been taught that demons are constantly attacking you all the time, and every time you make a mistake, you're going to have a demon. What's going to happen is when your mind believes that, it will animate in the emotions and actually create experiences based on your belief system. Okay, so you will animate that and you will manifest it outwardly. Okay, and so vain imaginations love to put on Halloween costumes and walk around our environment going trick-or-treating. Okay, and so many a times these demons that we're seeing are our inner demons, which is completely different from a demonic spirit. It's the inner battle of the belief system that is projecting outwardly based on indoctrination, culture, and what we've been taught. And so if you've been taught something and you experienced it, what do you think you're going to validate? You're going to validate even deeper that that experience is reality, until finally you can't see anything else but what you believe in that experience. And so we experience the angelic, which is actually coming in and out. Remember what Jesus said when he met Nathanael, and he said to Nathanael, "Hey, I saw you under the fig tree." And Nathanael said, "My Lord and my God." And Jesus said, "You marvel at this? You will see angels ascending and descending upon the Son of Man." Okay, and so there is an ascending and a descending from the kingdom within to the natural realm, from the eternal to the temporal. It's not vertical, it's simply a motion and a reflection and an echo from the spiritual to the natural that is echoing from spirit of the kingdom, of the angelic realm and all the celestial movement and beings, which are simply other versions of you, and you are everybody and they are you, and they're expressing out, vibrating out through the belief system that is now trying to articulate what spiritual reality is expressing in motion. But if my mind has been twisted through the beliefs and the doctrinal entanglements and the cultural influence, I will now filter everything that is happening in the motion of spiritual reality out of my emotions as my spiritual warfare, as angels coming as separate beings from me to help me in a situation, which is there really the Spirit is using that to begin to reconcile your mind where you believed in the lie of separation. See, the lie of separation is not just the lie of you being separated from God, it's you being separated from every other heavenly host, as though it is not God. And so I am the Lord and there is none beside me. So everything that's beside him is him in parable forms or in different expressions coming to you at different levels of your belief system, cognitively and experientially. And so you'll find that some of the demons that have been attacking you externally, or appearance that they are attacking you, are simply parts of you that you have yet to reconcile with. And I see your comment there, Elaine. You said it reminds you of Buddhism. Thankfully, I've never studied any Buddhism or any other religion. This has been my own personal experience without any influence of Buddhism. The only thing I studied was religiosity and churchianity that led me, thankfully, to the end of striving, to which I began to encounter all of this stuff personally, and didn't really have any other influence but me and God. And now I'm finding a lot of other people that are sharing the same thing. So it looks like the Buddhists had a piece of the truth as well. And so we are experiencing other versions of us coming to us to reconcile with who we've always been. That's origin. That would be the angelic realm. And we also have the demonic realm, which is parts of ourselves we've rejected based on historical woundedness, conclusions in our trauma, hiding that from others, trying to put on a happy face when we're hurting inside, not being truthful with ourselves, and not taking care of ourselves at the emotional level. And so we will project these things out as spirits of rejection, which is what? You rejecting you, and your spirit trying to use a symbol or a parable to show you how you've been treating yourself. It's very similar to dreams. While dreams, yes, we can have a pizza dream. We can have our own thinking dreams. That's true. But dreams, the mind does not take dreams while you're in them as false. It takes them as reality. And so your mind is actually wired to realize that your dreams have a sense of reality in them in the way in which your mind is communicating to you, and the interaction of self-talk and some of these different aspects. But just as dreams are symbolic while you're asleep, how do you know you're not sleeping right now? Because we are only conscious of a very small percent of our reality, like 1 to 3% in the natural realm. Our awake life is pretty much still a dream state until we begin to unlock the other 97% of reality that is actually happening around us, within us, and so on and so forth. And so because of that, we have to understand that when we're awake and we are experiencing parables around us, it is the very same thing as the parables in your dreams. And they are communicating how you are, in the sense of how you view yourself, where you're at, and your spirit sets up like a theater, and sets up characters in your dream, or in this theater show, of that which you can relate to in your life, that which you've taken personally in your life, and uses that to show you the condition of your belief system, the condition of your emotions, and tries to help to answer questions at a parable level, until we have become so brutally honest with ourselves and allowed love to fill those areas in reconciliation, to where we can enter into plain speech and can simply bypass God having to give us road signs all the time to get us off of our detours and get us back into alignment with simply living in the now of the embrace of love and of the Father's perspective of who we are. So that's just one simple aspect. But we don't want to over spiritualize. I think anytime we try to over spiritualize everything. It's usually another part of us that is being dishonest with our human experience, or where we are despising a part of our humanity as less than complete and perfect in Christ, because we have continued to evaluate what we're not, and thinking that's who we are. And so, I'm just rambling a little bit here with you guys, and I'm hoping that you can get something out of this. Your intellect, your will, your emotions, the seat of your personality, being the point of contact in which we animate this behavior, this expression. So I just encourage you, don't try to will something that you're not willing to express. So don't try to behave outwardly in a way to look good if you're not willing to face your own expression. Okay. Be real with yourself. Love yourself. Be patient with yourself. Don't repress yourself. Don't hide yourself from others. Don't be afraid of what others are going to do. The more honest you are with yourself and just allowing yourself to be loved, you're going to be able to be more real with other people. And you're going to find the more real you are, the more they're going to congratulate you. The more they're going to be real. And the more we're going to finally graduate from this beating around the bush communication level of candy coating how we talk to each other because we're afraid of offending one another or losing one another. I mean, you think about how dysfunctional that is, and we call it being sensitive to one another. And there is a place of sensitivity, there really is, but not out of the place of fear of lack or loss. So just be encouraged. If you're in an emotional place right now and you're not really sure, what to do with it, simply just watch it. What if you don't have to do anything with it? You don't have to force anything. You simply need to be aware, and you simply need to just look for where love can come into these areas, and then look for where love has action in and through your own life to steward the physical, the emotional, the relational, and let your expression be real. If you're feeling here's a good exercise you can do. If you're feeling sad, go look in the mirror and talk to yourself. This might seem strange. People talk to plants all the time and we know it's good for them. Maybe we need to talk to ourselves, not just commanding our body to come subject, not just commanding our emotions to be healed, but actually have a relationship with ourselves. Actually simply just say, how you feeling, Brian? How are you feeling today? Yeah, you're looking like you don't really like yourself right now. I'm just gonna give you a hug. I'm just gonna love you. I'm just gonna allow you to be loved. And then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go to my wife and I'm gonna say, Brian needs to be loved today. I need some love from you, and I need you to tell me it's gonna be all right. And just allowing people in. It's okay. Cry more. Laugh more. It's good for you. It really is. The kingdom is not in eating and drinking, but in righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Ghost. And we see, and I'll close with this, we see within those elements of righteousness, peace, and joy, that righteousness is your identity to allow yourself to be loved and to look at the truth of how your mind's been manipulating you and know that you're going to get through this without condemnation, because righteousness is the foundation of who you are. And so if I know I'm righteous, then anything I look at myself where I have to be brutally honest no longer condemns me, and I can do it with peace. I can have that peace that says, okay, I have peace with looking at the places in my life that before I was afraid to look at, because I was afraid that what if this person over here was right about me? What if the religious pastor that told me I was Jezebel was right about me? And what if that religious person in my life that told me that I was just a wretched sinner? What if that's true? And so I don't want to look at that, just in case it is. we can be brutally honest with ourselves when righteousness is the seat of our identity. And then we can have peace. We can have peace. And so this emanates out. Righteousness is who you are. Peace is your human experience being reconciled with who you are in all the different aspects of your life and history and emotion. And joy is the outward flow of a healthy environment of your own life. And I don't mean physical environment only. I mean the environment of how you see yourself. You do have a world within you that is the world of you, the world of how you see you. And that is the most important part of your life, because depending on how you see that world will depend on how you see the world around you. And so allow yourself, just allow yourself, give yourself grace, give yourself time, and be patient with yourself. It's all going to come together. Just simply take care of yourself on all levels. Eat good thoughts, be with people that love you and celebrate you, and don't take personally what anybody else is doing or thinking, because it's not you, it's their own stuff that they're going through. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I really, really appreciate taking the time here. And I look forward to our next time coming soon. And so I will, if you want to visit our website, you can visit it at www.foggm.org. God bless you. And I'm hoping I can figure out how to turn this Zoom off. God bless you all. We'll see you soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.